Ever, like, try to picture how those metal things you see every day actually get made?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the pipes hiding in your walls, or even those intricate metal sculptures you see at museums.
Hmm.
It's all thanks to Coquille Casting Workers. They're like the unsung heroes behind all things metal.
Really is amazing, isn't it? It's like they can like whisper to molten metal, coaxing it into all these different shapes.
Right. And today, we're not just going to admire their work. We're going to equip you with the knowledge to, well, maybe join their ranks, right?
Hmm.
So if you have an interview coming up for a Coquille Casting Worker position, you're in the right place. Get ready for a crash course in, like, how to totally ace those interview questions.
We'll cover all of it, everything from the technical stuff to those tricky behavioral questions that honestly can really make or break your chances.
Okay, let's just jump right into those, huh? Like, picture yourself sitting across from the hiring manager, right?
Okay.
And they ask you to tell them about your experience with casting work. Like, where would you even start with that?
So that's where having a like really clear picture of your own experience is so important.
Okay,
Think about it this way. They're not just looking for how many years you've clocked in at a foundry.
I guess that makes sense.
They want to see your passion, your foundational knowledge, even if it's from, school projects or like personal hobbies, that kind of thing.
So, like, even if I've never um, actually worked in a foundry,
Hmm.
I could still impress them by talking about that one time I tried to melt aluminum cans in my backyard for, like, a DIY project.
Totally. Exactly. It's all about showing them that you like understand those basic principles of working with metal.
Okay.
Like, melting it down, molding it,
Yeah.
all that. Now, let's say they decide to dig a little deeper, right?
Okay.
And they start asking about the specific techniques you use to make sure everything is accurate, in your castings.
Well, yeah, because let's be real. Nobody wants a wonky pipe or a sculpture that's, like, totally lopsided.
Right.
Precision is, like, key.
It is. And this is where you can really show off those technical skills, right? Don't just give them a generic answer like I'm really good with measurements. You got to dive into the specifics. Talk about the tools you use,
Okay. Okay.
like calipers or gauge blocks
Okay.
to double check all those, dimensions.
Yeah. It's those, like, little details that really set you apart from someone who's, like, just reciting those generic answers, I guess.
100%. And this is also where using something like RoleCatcher can be game-changing.
Hmm.
Its AI can actually analyze the job description and give you feedback on your answers, and
Oh.
make sure you're emphasizing the most important skills.
So, okay, so instead of just saying something like, I'm detail-oriented, which, everyone says,
Right.
I'd say something more like, I use a micrometer to make sure all my castings match up with the tolerances that are listed in the blueprint.
Exactly. You've got to speak their language. Show them that you're ready to jump right in. Now, let's move on to something else that's really important. Problem solving. What happens when a casting doesn't turn out perfectly?
Well, I mean, let's face it. Even the best, like, the most experienced metal whisperers out there make mistakes sometimes, right?
Right.
It happens.
Of course. So be ready for that question. You know the one. Tell me about a time you found a defect in a casting.
Uh-huh.
How did you handle it?
Oh, so it's time to confess all my DIY casting disasters now.
Well, not quite.
Okay.
It's about showing that you have, like, a system,
Right.
a way you approach problems.
Yeah.
Talk about how you'd figure out what the defect is. Is it a crack? Is it a void? Or something totally else?
Yeah.
And then walk them through how you'd find the root cause.
So, like, instead of just saying, oh, I just remelted and try again,
Mm-hmm.
I should explain how I'd look at things like the pouring temperature
Exactly.
or how the mold was designed or even, like, what the metal is actually made of.
Precisely. You want to show them you understand the how and the why behind everything.
Gotcha. Not just the steps.
It's like being, I don't know, like some kind of metal detective, right?
Yeah.
You're looking for clues to solve the mystery of the messed up casting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And showing that you can think that way, that
Yeah.
you can, like, analyze things. Well, that can really make you stand out in an interview.
Okay.
Now, how about we switch gears a bit and talk about materials?
Yeah.
Because you can't just melt down anything.
I know, right? It's not like you just grab whatever's lying around. It's not like a metal version of that show, what's it called? Chopped. Where they give you a bunch of random stuff and you have to like make something amazing out of it
Right.
with metal.
Well, I mean, it's not quite that dramatic.
Okay.
But you're right. You're right. Different metals, they have different properties, and choosing the right one. That's like a really big deal. Be ready for a question like, what's the difference between ferrous and non-ferrous metals, and why does it matter in casting?
Oh, okay. So time to dust off that old periodic table, I guess. Yeah, exactly. You're going to want to be able to talk about the different properties and all that.
Yeah.
Like, ferrous metals, those are things like steel.
Okay.
They have iron in them, so they're strong, but then, they can rust easily.
Yeah, yeah.
Non-ferrous metals, those are like aluminum, right? They're
Right.
lighter and they don't rust as much.
So it's not just about how it looks in the end.
Yeah.
But like, will it last?
Exactly. You got it.
Will it be durable?
And this is another area where a tool like RoleCatcher can give you an advantage. Because it's analyzed so many job descriptions, it knows.
Yeah.
It knows which metals pop up the most in Coquille casting, so you can tailor your answers perfectly. You know what I mean?
It's like having a crystal ball, but for interviews.
Right.
Speaking of like revealing things, we should talk about safety. Because, well, let's be real. Safety is, it's super important when you're dealing with molten metal, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, safety is like the most important thing in a foundry, no question. Be ready for questions about it. Like, what do you do to stay safe when you're working with molten metal? Or how would you help create a safe environment for everyone?
Okay, so these aren't just about like naming off pieces of safety gear, are they?
No, not at all. They want to see that you really, truly understand the risks involved and that you're, proactive about safety.
Okay.
Be prepared to talk about personal protective equipment. That's things like, gloves that can handle the heat,
Yeah, of course.
aprons, face shields, respirators, all that.
Yeah. So it's more about showing them that you get why those things are important.
Yes, exactly.
Not just that you're wearing them because you have to.
You got it.
Yeah.
Mention things like keeping your workspace clean, to prevent trips and falls.
Right.
Oh, and don't forget about communication.
Oh, yeah. Because I imagine that in a foundry, like a miscommunication could lead to, well, some pretty bad things.
Exactly. Now imagine they throw you a curveball, right? Like, you see your coworker and they're not wearing their safety glasses. What do you do?
Wow, that's a tough one. Do you, like, tell on them? Or do you just mind your own business?
That's where you show them you're all about that safety first culture.
Yeah.
You could say something like, I would just remind them, politely how important it is to wear their safety glasses.
Right.
And I'd even offer to grab them a pair if they need some.
So you're not, like, being bossy, you're being helpful.
Exactly.
And you're looking out for them.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, totally. It's about, like, looking out for each other, right?
Yeah.
Not just, following the rules blindly.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's say, like, things still manage to go wrong.
Yeah.
Even with all the safety stuff in place. How do you deal with, like, the pressure of making a mistake? I mean, foundry work seems pretty fast-paced.
That's a really good question. And honestly, you're probably going to get asked something like that in your interview. They want to know that you can, bounce back from mistakes.
Right.
And that you're not going to, freak out when things get a little stressful.
So how do you answer that, like, without sounding like you're going to burn the place down every other day?
Think about it in terms of growth and resilience. You could say, look, I know that everyone makes mistakes, especially when things are moving fast.
Yeah.
But what's really important is learning from those mistakes and, figuring out how to improve.
So, like, instead of just feeling bad about messing up, I should talk about how I figured out what went wrong and then, like, what I did to make sure it wouldn't happen again.
Exactly. Did you tweak the process? Did you double check something? Maybe you asked someone with more experience for advice. It's all about showing that you're proactive.
Yeah.
You're always trying to get better.
So it's kind of like turning a mistake into like a learning experience.
100%. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit. Let's say the interview goes great. You get the job. You're like a safety superstar. You're cranking out these perfect castings. What's next? Like, what does a career in Coquille casting look like? What are the opportunities out there?
Oh, there are tons of possibilities. Coquille casting can take you in so many cool directions. You could specialize in a specific type of casting.
Yeah.
You could move into more of a leadership role, like a supervisor. Some people even move into sales or quality control.
Wow. So it's not just about like staying in the foundry forever?
Not at all. You pick up all these valuable skills, and those can be used in tons of different areas, especially in manufacturing. And this is another way that RoleCatcher can help you out. It can help you figure out what those career paths might look like, what skills you need to work on, and it can even like connect you with job openings.
Like a career counselor and a job board all rolled into one.
Exactly. And the best part is, it's not just for newbies. Even if you're already a pro, it can be super helpful. It can tell you about the latest trends in the industry and stuff like that.
So, like, even if you think you've mastered it all, there's always something new to learn.
Always. Always.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, is there, like, one golden nugget of advice you would give to someone who's about to interview for a Coquille casting job?
Honestly, the biggest thing is to just be prepared. Do your research on the company, make sure you really understand the job.
Okay.
And of course, practice those interview answers, but don't just focus on the technical stuff. Let your passion shine through.
Yeah.
Talk about your skills, your commitment to safety, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, make them see you really care.
Exactly. And hey, if you're using RoleCatcher, well, that's like having a secret weapon, right? It's not just about prepping for one interview. It's about setting yourself up for success, in your entire career.
So true. Well, thanks so much for sharing all your wisdom with us today. It's been super insightful.
My pleasure, really. I'm glad I could help.
And for everyone listening, whether you're just dipping your toes into the world of metal casting or you're already knee-deep in molten metal, keep learning, keep exploring. This industry is always changing. Until next time, happy casting, everyone.